Welcome back to the Nth Degree. What we're going to focus on in this video is the ready position. Now, you can go on the internet, check out a variety of different videos, check out a variety of different arts. In fact, you could even go and watch a whole bunch of UFC fights. And what you're going to find is that no one person approaches a self-defense situation in the same manner. From that standpoint, what we're going to focus on is our ability to be quick, mobile, and be able to get out of the way of any kind of strikes that might be coming towards us, while also being able to apply an offense if it's necessary. As we go through this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Jackson out, and I'm going to show you a variety of different positions and some of the mistakes that people can make, and I'll show you the most efficient way to start off in a situation where you're having to defend yourself from any kind of harm. Stay with me. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through some basic mistakes that a lot of people make. Now, if you have traditional martial arts training, you may have seen some different positions, something along these lines. The first would be a horse stance, where Jackson gets down into sort of almost a squatted position, puts his hands on his hips, and then works from there. That would be his attack position or his defense position. Now, the challenge with that, as you can see, is that he's not very mobile, his hands are down, and all of his vital targets are open, once again. So now, the next thing you might see is from another sort of traditional martial art, let's say Taekwondo, where the hands are down by the side, and we're almost in a situation where we're squared against our opponent, so we can utilize all our kicks, and we really don't have to worry about any of our vital targets, because the reality is the rules in that game don't allow for those kinds of strikes. Now, the next thing you might want to look at is, what do you see, quite often in a situation where it's sort of a street-based type of scenario? Well, what you tend to see is people sort of stepping back, having their feet square, but bringing their chest out and their arms down. So as if Jackson turns to me and he makes this motion, and look where we're sitting right now. All of a sudden, Jackson's trying to, he's trying to intimidate me, but look at all these vital points. Inside the knee, inside of the thigh, groin, solar plexus, throat, eyes, ears, they're all available to me if I need to make a strike. Now, that's not what we want to do. So let's take a moment and let's have a look at what we do want to do. So Jackson, just bring your feet together in a neutral position. Now, as you go through this is a concept. So we're going to walk you through a process, but at the end of it, you're going to have to use what works naturally for you. So in this situation, just count your feet back, Jackson. And see how Jackson's moved that foot back? This is just an average position. And then what he's going to do is just to adjust a little bit to what feels right for him. And what you also notice is that you'll tend to see him a little bit more on his toes. Now, the reality is, from an athletic standpoint, he can run a sprint, he can play volleyball, basketball, football, he can be a base runner in baseball. This is a very natural position. From this standpoint, he can move forward, he can move back, he can move side to side very easily if that's what he chooses to do. So the next thing we're going to look at is, where do the hands go? So people might want to have their hands on their hips. I would say never do that, because it's not about protecting your hips. It's about protecting those vital areas that can make a real difference if somebody hits you in them. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the hands up, and notice where Jackson's got them. They're in front of his face, and there's a barrier between himself and his potential opponent. And behind this, his hands are loose and relaxed. They're open a little bit, which is also allowing the muscles in his shoulders and his arms to be loose as well. As you can imagine, having a completely seized arm and trying to punch with it, well, you can't let anything go. It doesn't naturally flow. But when you contract the muscles and allow that jab to come out just very naturally, now you're in a situation where that's, again, an athletic position. Okay? Now watch what happens when Jackson turns and he faces me. Now in this situation, if I want to get to the groin, I kind of have to come around that leg. If I want to get to the solar plexus, I'm going to have to worry about his hands, right? And notice how he's taking his lead hand and his lead leg and put them in the best possible position to be able to hold me back, whether it be with lead leg shuffle kicks or with jabs. And ultimately, this is our ready position. Now, from this standpoint, you can move around, you can move forward, you can move back, and you're going to see natural transitions. You're not going to see him hold steadfast all the time to just this one scenario. You're going to see his hands move a little bit. You're going to see his feet move. You're going to watch his feet separate and come in closer together. And it's a variety of different combinations that allow our footwork to really kind of become unstoppable. Now, this is not a footwork video. This is just the basic stance video. So as we're, again, looking at Jackson, look where he's at right now. His hands are up. They're in front of his face, right? At any point, he can move around. He can move to the side. He can move to the other side. And ultimately, he can knock anything out of the way that's coming towards his face or otherwise. Stay with me. Okay, So now what we're going to do is go through some very simple, basic training methods that are going to allow Jackson to be able to practice this. Now, you may or may not have somebody to practice with. If you don't, use your imagination and your ability to visualize and pretend that somebody's in front of you feeding you these angles. If you do have somebody you can train with, that's fantastic. That person and yourself can just mimic what we're doing. All right? So let's get started. What happens when somebody walks up to you out of nowhere with their hands down, fully facing in front of you, trying to intimidate you? So Jackson, come on towards me. Now in this situation, look where he's at. If I throw that jab out, look how far that hand has to go to be able to stop that hand from coming here. So I've got that distance to go, and he's got all of that distance to go. I mean, it's really mathematics. I'm probably going to beat him most of the time, unless he's significantly faster than myself and has a greater set of attributes. Okay? So again, if I'm here, I can hit him here, I can get that groin, solar plexus, throat, eyes, ears. All right? Now watch what happens when Jackson goes into his basic stance. Look how that just changed. First thing he did is he gave me a little bit more space. So if I'm actually going to make contact, I have to take a step forward. Further to that, I no longer have instant access to his face, to his throat, his abdomen, or his solar plexus, or his groin. Right? It's all those things that we just talked about previously. So all of a sudden, Jackson finds himself in a very good position, regardless of what I'm trying to do. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed Jackson some very simple strikes, but I'm not going to use my fist. I'm not going to throw a jab necessarily. I'm just going to point out lines of attack. So as I step forward, I'm going to point out lines of attack that force him to be able to move and to keep that stance to be able to defend himself. Thanks for joining us today and watching this video. If you learned anything new, make sure you hit the like button and show your support.
If you want to see more content from us, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an upload from us. We'll see you guys next time.